What is up, everybody? My name's Abby here. Welcome back to Thomas a Friend Season 20. So, Season 20 had a little bit of changes through this season, so let's get started. First series, we have Chris Renshaw as a music composer for this series and throughout the final series of Series 24 after Robert Harsher left. So I'm going to give you my final thoughts on his music composer after every episode. And this is the first series to have anime by Janfield Toronto after Arc Productions left because Arc Productions company had failed bankrupt, so yeah. And also after the next series of the next season of season 21, the bouncing animation's gonna get a little bit less in those episodes, so you can see why the bouncing animations has a lot of less episodes, but a lot of them doesn't have bouncing animation, so yeah. But without further ado, let's get started with every episode. First episode, Sidney Sings. Forgettable Singing makes a song to help him remember his jobs. Now, this is the first episode, and it is boring. Like, that is it. It's boring. Yeah, I actually don't like this one a lot more. Like, Sidney's song, actually doesn't do anything better. It's just plain and boring. But I just really think that Chris Renshaw would do the Sidney songs a lot better, but nope, they just come up with this one. And fun fact, this song or Sidney song is similar to Little Brown Jug, composed by Joseph Winter in 1869. So yeah, in 1869, instrumental versions of this song can be heard throughout the episode. So yeah, I just don't like this one. Again, it's not that good, and it will give it a 5 out of 10. Next episode, Toby's new friend. Philip tries to make friends with Toby, much to Toby's dismay. So I like how we get to see how interacting Philip with Toby. And Toby was a decent character in this episode, but I like how they raced together in this episode. But too much, I love the peace and quiet when Toby said when he loves the peace and quiet. I absolutely love the peace and quiet thing. So I think that Toby is like Murdoch was from season 7. So it was a good one. And Philip was just not only great character, in my opinion. Anyways, it's gonna give it a middle of the road 6 out of 10. Next episode, Henry gets the express. Henry takes the express instead of Gordon. Now, this is where Henry shines, because we see Henry takes the express for the first time instead of Gordon, which makes him a lot jealous. And I love how Henry says, "Express coming through!" And Gordon says, "That's my line!" Which I find it to be hilarious. So, yeah. In this one, we'll give it a 8 out of 10. Next episode, Diesel and the Ducklings. Diesel struggles to keep up his rough and tough demeanor when he makes friends with some ducklings. Now, this is an oddly strange episode because Diesel try to be a rough and tough demeanor and try to make some friends with some ducklings. I don't understand what the writers have been going on with this episode, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of this one. Like, Diesel try to show his cute side in the ducklings, but also shows his rough and tough from the engines, or the steam engines, the steamies. And same for Arian Burt. Arian Burt have a soft spot for Ducklings was just rather weird. But this episode is a lot better than Middle Engine from what I heard. It is the bad episode. But this one, I consider this episode to be a lot more good in many ways. I mean, it's not that great, so I'm just gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Next episode, Bradford the Brake Van. A brake van from the mainland arrives and gets the trucks to behave. Now, this is what a brake van, or a good brake van, needs. A soldier brake van, of course. Bradford the Brake Van reminds me of Soldier from T-Fortress 2, by the way, which is honestly a reference. And this theme is based on by the 1963 film The Great Escape, which is oddly a escape from series 3, which I really love. So I love Bradford's character, and the way how he tells the trucks to behave kind of give me a chuckles, so that was a bonus. So anyways, this episode will give it a 8 out of 10. Next episode, Saving Time. Samson takes as many trucks as an important stone train to save time getting to the docks. Now this is a waste of potential right there. Why do I keep watching this? I just don't like Samson's character in this one. Like, the writers don't even care. The writers don't even care about this. Like, they just want to add Samson and saving time, and that's it. It's not saving time. It's like wasting your precious time. And that's what Samson wants to waste his precious time about this episode. So, I just don't really like Samson at all, and he is he is not annoying. He is a bad character from this. And this is what example for the episode. 3 out of 10. Next episode, Ryan and Daisy. Daisy manipulates Ryan to get him to do her extra work as well as his own. Now this is a great one. I really like how Daisy interacted with Ryan and trying to manipulate him for doing her extra work, which is kind of a good one. But we can all say that Ryan is out of character, but I don't think that Ryan is out of character in this episode. No. And I really like how DC is a main character, and since the first series episode, Bullseyes, which is the last episode as Stacy as the main character role lead. So yeah. But I like her series 2 persona character. I like it. It was so good. So yeah. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. 7 out of 10. Next episode, Pouty James. James has to learn to change his showy attitude. Okay, so this episode was alright. The first half was good, and the second half was bad. And I'll explain why. The first half was good because James showing off was just the best one. And saying, "Here's James," was just amazing. It reminds me of the film called Here's Johnny, and I really like that one. But the second half was so bad. Like, James tries to laugh when people makes fun of it. When people makes fun of their face. I actually don't know what's the point of that. Unlike Mimic Madness, Mimic Madness shows that SpongeBob mimics other people. It mimics Sandy, Plankton, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Patrick, and Gary. It doesn't make fun of that. It doesn't make fun of, making fun of people's faces. No. But in this one, it's so wrong. And the making fun of faces was just not that good. It feels like some people just straight up bully you. So, yeah. I just don't like it. And I give it a 5 out of 10. Next episode, Blown Away. Skiff is helping prepare for a storm, but he himself has blown away down a track. This is a fun one. We get to see Skiff being not afraid of the storm, but being like, a brave boat to help Duck and Oliver stop at the tracks. So I really like this one. This episode has a great one, and Skiff being a hero is just absolutely good. And I actually really like Skiff because his character is just so, like, he was just courage but heroism, and he stops Duck and Oliver from crashing, which is amazing. So for once again, this episode will give it a 9 out of 10. Next episode, The Way She Does It. Daisy boasts about transporting an entertainers group. I like this one. And this is based off by the annual story That's the Way You Do It, but with Daisy instead. And I like Daisy's character, but the way but if I have a problem, then it's Thomas telling about this.
Going to Misty Island?
Shut up! Thomas, we don't want to hear you said Misty Island Rescue. And by the way, Misty Island Rescue, that one can go to hell. But this episode is great with some very great parts. I really like how the ending, how people interacted with the puppet show on Daisy's Railcar, and I really like that one. And plus the dog almost eating the Fat Controller's ice cream was just such a pretty much good laughter right there. And I like it, so I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. Next episode, Letters to Santa. Percy thinks Harold is full of himself when he offers to help him with the Christmas mail. I actually love this episode. I really like it because for Percy's flashback of him beating Harold in a race, which is from series 2, Percy Proves a Point, or in the UK title, Percy and Harold. But this episode is just so good. But I love the Percy and Harold dynamic duo in this episode. It was just so fun to watch. And you really feel bad for Harold when he breaks down in this episode. So yeah. But anyways, without being said, I give this episode a 8 out of 10. Next episode, Love Me Tender. Donald and Douglas argue while clearing the snow. Now this is a good one. I mean a great one, yes. I love Donald and Douglas. I love how they bring Donald and Douglas. And it's pretty good. Because We get to see him in the last appearance of the episode called Gordon and the Engineer, but this is why they bring him back, because they want Donald Douglas because the best twins. And yes, they argue while clearing the snow. So yeah. But Donald and Douglas themes of season 20 are no exception. And I love it by far. So I'm gonna give this episode a 9 out of 10. Episode: The Railcar and the Coaches. Daisy's route to Annie and Clarabelle. This is a good one. We get to see Daisy interacting with Annie and Clarabelle during the second series episode, Daisy. And I really like that how Daisy gets to interact and being rude with Annie and Clarabelle again. But I like it. But I really like how Annie and Clarabelle try to be rude to Daisy, which is kind of a bit funny. So, yeah. Didn't have too much to say about this episode. That either in this episode will give it a 7 out of 10. Next episode, Mucking About. Thomas questions his days of racing with Max and Monty after they repeatedly pull reckless and dangerous stunts. Now, this is a great one. We get to see Monty and Max racing against Thomas, but without Birdie. And I really like it. And I really like Max and Monty's character, but the way how they treated in this episode was just so good. And yes, people are thinking that Max and Monty are just bullies, but I can understand why. But to me, I don't think they're that bullies in this episode, no. So without further said, I'm going to give this episode a 8 out of 10. Next episode, Cautious Connor. Connor gets damaged when traveling at high speed in decades and decides that he must go more slowly from now on. I really think this is a good one. Maybe for the good parts of how Steven saying Grease Lightning could be a reference to the song, the musical Grease. And I like how we get to see Steven interacting with Connor or encouraging Connor, by the way, to travel at high speed but not slowing down, which is a good one. So yeah, I'm gonna give this episode a 7 out of 10. This episode, All in Vain. James has to take the mare to the Callan Castle, but it's a farm when he finds a tiny scratch on his paintwork. I like how we get to see James, but not arguing when he gets, a little bit dirty. So yeah. And I think that this episode is a great one because James smiling but with getting dirty was good. And I like it for most of the parts. But the one problem, if I find it, it'd be not annoying his tiny scratch on his paintwork, and it could done special jobs a lot more, and then take the mayor to the Callan Castle with Sir Topham mats. But no, James would decide to dry his paint again in no time. So without further said, this episode will give it a 7 out of 10 for a great episode. Buckle trucks and bumpy trucks. Or in the US, buckle trucks and bumpy cars. Everyone on Sodor struggles on the hot water. Belly and Flynn were putting out fires while a fat controller, aka Sir Topham Hatt, was forced to wear a safari hat to keep himself cool. This episode was okay. Yes, the fat controlling wearing a safari hat was a pretty funny one, and I like it. And he will later wear the safari hat once more in Big World Big Adventures during his fight for Thomas. But some of these parts were not that good. Like why would Flynn or Belle actually spray the tracks to keep them cool? So yeah, I just kind of find this okay episode, and I'm gonna give it 5 out of 10. Next episode, Tit for Tat. Bert is splashed by some visitors to the railway and is determined to get them back. A good one. It has a feeling of the railway stories, and this is the first episode to be adopted from the railway series, since the last railway series book could be Special Attraction or Mind That Bike. I'm not sure what the last story, but it could be Special Attraction, by the way. I don't know. But anyway, this episode focused on the R-stall engines named Bert, Mike, and Max, probably. Anyway, I like how Bert is determined to get back at them after they splashed by some visitors, and I really like that one. I mean, it was just a nice, like, karma payback time. So yeah, and it gives it a 7 out of 10. Next episode, Mike's whistle. After teasing Duck about his whistle, Mike boasts about his own. This is a good one. It takes like little pieces of Faulty's whistle, the episode from the 6th series, and then it does it with not Duncan, Mike, and I really like this one. Mike is just blowing his whistle when some parts in this episode I kind of find it a bit funny. That wouldn't give me the few chuckles, and I really like that one. And also the line when Mike exclaims, "Get out of my way, you stupid animal," in the original book, to avoiding criticism for cursing, but I don't think that stupid was not cursing. I just don't think of that. Like, they shouldn't kept it in the TV series rather than "you silly animal." It was just not that good, but "you stupid animal" was not that cursing a little bit, because they avoid any criticism. Like, I don't get it though. So yeah. But without further said, this episode will give it a 8 out of 10. Next episode, Useful Railway. Rex thinks that pulling wool trains is an easy job, but he quickly discovers otherwise. I really love this episode. It was so good. But the crash scene from the episode became an internet meme in 2016 called Rex V VEVO, where the multiple different songs played over it, replacing the original music, which I really like it. And I found it to be one of the best Crash from the CGI series as a whole. In this episode, we'll give it a 10 out of 10, a best episode. Next episode, Henry in the Dark. Henry is accidentally giving a paint that glows in the dark, which causes James, Gordon, and Thomas to think there is a ghost train. I really love this episode. Henry is actually giving a paint that glows in the dark, which could tease your, could cause Gordon, James, and Thomas to think there's a ghost train, and they got scared because that'll serve them right for they tease Henry, which I really love, especially James and Gordon, of course. But I honestly do have a one problem, and that is Edward being scared of Henry. Like, why would he tell, like, oh, there is no such thing as a ghost train? Like, why wouldn't he tell about that? So, other words, this episode will give it a 8 out of 10. Episode 3 Steam Engines Gruff. Thomas, Percy, and Toby are frightened by a sound under the bridge. This is just what the absolute freak. What are the writers even thinking about this episode? First off, they didn't think that they write this episode because of how Thomas, Percy, and Toby are frightened by sound, but it's only a cow. Why are they frightened by a cow under the bridge? That this episode doesn't make any sense. And now my problem is that Edward laughs. I just don't find it to be a lot more funny than that. The ending was so stupid and so dull. And Thomas making a pun about it is not that good. So anyways, this episode would give it a 3 out of 10. Next episode, Engine of the Future. A different new engine arrives to the island, and the other engines think that he will replace them. This is a fine one. Again, other engines think that he will replace them was just not that good. But the other engines were just completely out of character. Kind of, for Thomas, at least. I just don't like this one a lot. I mean, yeah, sure, Hugo was an okay character in this episode, but the other agents think that he replaced them? I don't know what's wrong with them. So, yeah. This episode will get a 4 out of 10. Episode, Hugo in the Airship. Hugo wishes he could fly like an airship, but he's soaring over Sodor. I can understand why people want to hate this episode because of Hugo's character, but hear me out. It's my opinion, and it's my opinion. I don't think Hugo is out of character in this episode, but yeah, soaring over Sodor, of course, it's a little bit out of character, but looking back on it right now, like, I don't think it's not a episode or a bad episode. So I'm gonna give it a middle of the road 6 out of 10. Next episode, The Missing Breakdown Train. Judy and Jerome get their chance to be really useful again. This episode was good. It gets how Judy Jerome's character just once again again interacting with this episode, and they get their chance to be really useful again when there's an accident. So yeah, and this is the first time that Daisy has an accident in the television series. Pretty one time she hasn't, so it's not that bad. And anyway, I'll give this episode a 8 out of 10. Skiff and the Fat Controller go on a wild adventure around Arspa Harbor in the search of a mermaid. This episode was good. I mean, the Fat Controller parts of the scene were so funny. I mean, he's gone insane in this episode. So, yeah. And I like how he's once was a Boy Scout, was revealed in this episode. So, that was a nice touch. So anyways, I'm going to give this episode a 8 out of 10. Christmas Coffeepot. Mermaid rediscovers Glenn, the Coffeepot engine restored and taken to Ulstead Castle. This one is pretty good. I actually really like this one. I mean, yeah, Glenn, the Coffeepot engine returns after the adventure begins, since we never seen this one until this episode aired. And once I saw it, I was just pretty good about this episode, and it does have a feel that Glenn would be scrapped, which is similar to Hero of the Rails, where Hero's gonna be scrapped, but he ain't. So I'm gonna give this episode a 8 out of 10. Final one, Over the Hill. Stephen becomes jealous of all attention received by Glenn at the castle. This is a great one to end it off, and they did it off of a bang. I like how the music plays the start of the Glenn and Stevens race, extremely similar to the Survivor song Eye of the Tiger, so which is pretty good. And I like how they race with the slow song called I don't know what song it is, but you can all comment down below what song it is, but I actually don't know what it is. With that first said, I'm gonna give this episode, or final episode, a 8 out of every episode of season 20. So let's look at my pie chart rating. So season 20 got 22 great / best episodes, 4 meh episodes, and 2 bad / worst episodes. So I'm gonna guess that season 20 is a great season, but it has less meh episodes and less bad episodes. So I'm gonna give the season a 6 out of 10 for a great season. Now here are my top 5 favorite episodes from season 20. Number 5, Henry in the Dark. I really like Henry has a glowing looks like a glowing engine, which is from the dark, was so good. And I really like how everybody's scared of Henry after they tease him about it. Number 4, Mucking About. I really like Max and Monty's character, which is so good. Number 3, Love Me Tender. A nice theme and a nice character of Donald and Douglas. Number 2, Blown Away. Skiff is a heroic in this episode. And number 1, Useful Railway. I love it because of the crash. The crash is so good. It is the best crash forever in the season. Now, before we end off, let's have a look at my final thoughts on this. So let's talk about the narrator. Let's talk about Mark Morgan. In this season, he did a fantastic job, I would say. Like he's nothing compared to Michelangelo's or George Carlin. So he sounds pretty fine in this episode. So in the next season, he'll become the last narrator. About Chris Renshaw. His music composing for this season was alright. Like, I prefer Robert Honshaw or Michael Donald and Junior Campbell with their music. And speaking of Robert Honshaw, he did a great job from series 13 through 18, series 13 through 19, which is pretty good. But Chris Renshaw, he did alright, or most of them. But the one thing that I really do like from this composing and the music was Donald and Douglas season 20 theme. That one, I love it by far. So, Chris Renshaw, you did a fine job. So, yeah. This is every episode of Thomas and Friends season 20. So I hope you guys really did enjoy it. And if you did, please leave a like. And if you did, please why not subscribe my second channel, my first channel, and join me on my Discord server, follow me on Twitch, join me on my Goliath server, all that stuff. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next season, which I'm having a special guest to collab with me with the next season. So peace out.